And welcome into another episode of Draft Nation. You know, draftnation.com. You could go there, get all the latest on all of your favorite teams and even your least favorite teams, maybe. That happens a lot on a rivalry week, which Steeler fans are in the middle of. And so certainly, whatever you need to know, it's all there. How are certain teams building up their organizations? Are they doing the right things with the draft, the trade deadlines? All those questions being covered from the college ranks, college football playoff, obviously, getting amped up for that. A lot of those players that will end up in the NFL. And certainly Major League Baseball hot stove about to kick off in a real way. NBA and NHL seasons underway now. Teams trying to figure out who and what they are. And like I mentioned, the NFL, teams trying to figure out if they're legit playoff contenders or not down the stretch run here, including some very big games this weekend. Obviously, everybody's been talking about the Chiefs and the Bills, but in arguably the best rivalry in the NFL, it's the Steelers and the Ravens. So let's get somebody from Baltimore, from down in Baltimore, the Big Bad Morning Show on 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore. And I'm going to continue to say Baltimore because that's how they like to say it down there. My good friend Jeremy Conn joins me here on Draft Nation. Jeremy, thanks for going on the clock.
Yeah, what are you yins doing up there, huh? Up north.
We're naming sandwiches after Russell Wilson. That's what we're doing up here.
You guys got a turd sandwich?
Oh, man. Shots fired right out of the gate by Conn. We talked a little bit this morning. I came on your morning show in Baltimore. We talked a little bit about whether Steeler fans are believing in Russell Wilson or not, where they're at in that process. And I think a lot of Steeler fans are probably in a similar boat to the one I am in, where we weren't necessarily excited about the signing of Russell Wilson, but hell, it had to be better than Kenny Pickett, right? Had to be better than Mitch Trubisky. And we weren't necessarily jazzed about the hiring of Arthur Smith, but it's all this stuff that we weren't excited about, but it's all working right now. What's the perspective from down in Baltimore, where it has been another year of Lamar's MVP level play, but you got the sprinkles on top of, we've got a guy who's capable of being the most dominant running back in this era also to take some of the pressure off Lamar?
Look, it's been fun. We didn't know what was going to happen with Derrick Henry coming to town. The Ravens didn't have a ton of money to spend in the offseason. We knew they were going to lose a lot of their free agents. Mm-hmm. Most of the ones they really weren't concerned with signing. Obviously, you guys know about Patrick Queen there, and I heard his comments and how he's feeling. But they didn't pick up his fifth-year option, so I don't know why he expected them to offer him a contract. They had a guy waiting in the wings anyways that was going to take over. So, but seeing Derrick Henry and hearing the stories at practice about him giving guys piggyback rides, not actually doing that, him just carrying guys into the end zone. I mean, he's a DB's nightmare, right? Like, you make business decisions when he's coming your way. Most guys try to go low. Good luck. But I do think the mesh point between Lamar and Derrick Henry and that read option, when that ball goes into his belly and you don't know where it's going, if Lamar's keeping it, if it's going to be a pass in the RPO, it is a very dangerous offense. And I can't believe I'm saying that living in Baltimore. The odd thing for us, though, is, like, I'd say the Steeler year for Baltimore fans is almost akin to when they started off, what was it, 11-0?
Yeah.
And a lot of people here go, I don't believe it. I don't think they're for real. There are a lot of people in this city that don't think the Steelers are for real. I am not one of them. I actually got in an argument with my co-host today. Like, that, I've told you this before. I'm not a Russell Wilson guy at all.
Right.
And making that decision, you had to have some sort of huevos to go ahead and say, hey, we're 4-2. We're going to switch quarterbacks. Going, what? To a guy that didn't look all that good in my mind last year. But I love the way your defense is playing. I mean, Najee Harris, it'd be nice if he found the end zone every once in a while, but I love watching him play. He gets so many yards after contact. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And then the fact that you guys pick up Mike Williams and he shows out in a big way in his first game. So I think this weekend's going to be fun, just like any other game. I'm a little bit surprised that the Ravens are favored on the road, though.
Yeah, I think because of what you said, I think the majority of football fans around the country are, I don't want to say just waking up to the Steelers. They know the Steelers exist, right? They know Tomlin, they know Russ, they know the names, but I don't know if they've necessarily watched a ton of Steelers football. Or if they have watched it this year, it's been, they beat the Jets and the Giants back-to-back primetime games. Congratulations, guys. You beat the Jets and the Giants. And so a lot of people, I think, look at the Steelers as maybe paper tigers at this point, right? Like, okay, yeah, let's see them do it in this monstrous, brutal back half of their schedule against the Ravens twice, the Bengals twice, the Eagles, the Chiefs, and yeah, you get to play the Browns twice also. But, people are looking at it and saying, okay, prove it to us now. And I think that's why this game, you're right, is going to be so much fun. You're right, though. Tomlin, no, I don't know if there's another head coach, short of maybe Harbaugh in Baltimore, who could have said, after starting the year 4-2, we're going to bench our quarterback and bring this guy in and let him. And again, in Pittsburgh, a lot of us, me included, this dummy here, thought, oh, this is terrible. Russ is, oh, no, this is it. This is what sinks it. And instead, it's been exactly what this team needed, exactly what the offense needed, in that you took Fields' ability to avoid turnovers, which he did well the first 6 weeks, and you've now added this ability to manage the offense. It's not going to the line and making one read and then going. It's going to the line, making a couple of reads and knowing exactly how to execute what needs to be done in that Arthur Smith offense. And again, I was not high on Russ either, Jeremy, but the guy has come in and it's a pejorative, right? It's a bad word when you talk about quarterbacks. You're not allowed to say they manage things well, because it sounds like they don't go out and make plays, but you're not afforded the opportunity to drop a moon ball into the bucket for Mike Williams in the end zone if you don't manage the game well first.
Yeah, and look, that gets overblown sometimes. We talk about managers of the game. I say this all the time, and whether people agree with me or not, like in college sports, there's 3 types of coaches, right? There's the guys that can recruit, the guys that can actually coach, and the guys that do both. In the NFL, we have your playmakers, your guys that manage the game, and the guys that know how to do both. And like, I put Lamar in that grouping as well. Like, sometimes you'll go look at his numbers at the end of the game. He's like, he threw for 170 yards. Yeah, he ran for 75, but how good was that? Well, it was good enough for them to win by 4 touchdowns. Like it doesn't, like, they don't care who scores. They don't care who, if Mark Andrews gets the most receptions, fine. If he gets none, he didn't complain when all that was going on. And I think he's too cute to not get any looks, but they weren't throwing the football to him, man. So it's interesting though to look at the different coaches in this league and who's done what as far as like replacing a quarterback, because usually when you see that happen, it's because of poor play. Like we saw Andy Dalton replace Bryce Young. We saw Joe Flacco replace Anthony Richardson, and now Anthony Richardson's replacing him and Bryce Young is back because teams want to see what their young quarterbacks can do. I don't know what the Steelers' future holds at quarterback, but like right now watching Russ, he's playing way better than I would have thought. And again, I don't know that it's great, but he's not costing them games, which I think is the most important thing when you have a defense. Like if I look at Baltimore, I'm going, Lamar has to do stuff to win the games because that defense has looked horrendous in the secondary.
Yeah, I mean, it fits well. It fits together very nicely with an Arthur Smith offense, which doesn't ask its quarterback to do too much, but just distribute the ball where it needs to be distributed. As for Lamar, like, how do you guys in Baltimore explain, if you can, his struggles against the Steelers over the years? Because I can't explain, other than the fact that they do a very good job of staying in their pass rush lanes against Lamar, containing him in the pocket, not letting him get loose and make plays with his legs. But this is and I said this on your show this morning, the first time Lamar's been afforded the opportunity to come to Heinz Field. I'm never going to call it Acrisure Stadium. I hate that name. The first time he's been afforded the opportunity to come to Heinz Field with Derrick Henry standing behind him. But also, this is the evolution of Lamar where, okay, he's got his Zay Flowers. He's still got Mark Andrews, obviously. Maybe Isaiah Likely comes back this week as well. He's reading the field, I think, better than he ever has at any point in his career as well. And so you don't even have to ask Lamar to do anything with his legs in this game. You could ask him to read the defense, make the calls that he needs to, make the plays that he needs to. And I think finally, maybe that's the key to unlocking Lamar against the Steelers.
Yeah, and again, not too many opportunities in playing the Steelers for as long as he's been here, but everybody in Baltimore knows they've done a tremendous job against him. The one thing I would say, there's a couple things here to add to it, and I'm probably going to use some Adam Sandler references because it's like when Happy learned how to putt, or Billy Madison when he catches the dodgeball and he says, now you're all in big trouble.
Right.
That's what it's like when you realize that this guy can actually throw the football and that he does read defenses. I know you guys up in Pittsburgh hated Matt Canada for years. Like, what do we got to do to get rid of this guy? That's how I felt about Greg Roman.
Right.
I felt like Arthur Smith was Greg Roman in a different outfit. Like that's how I looked at those two guys. They're going to run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. But we're seeing that you didn't have to come in and change an offense up to make it a running offense and feature your quarterback on, designed runs for him.
Right.
That now Lamar can actually read the defense. He can change the play at the line of scrimmage. A big thing we were discussing here in Baltimore when Greg Roman was here is like, are they purposely calling the play in late so nothing can be done to change it? Like, you got to get up there and run the play. That was an honest conversation we had, because now Monken gets them in. We don't see too many delay of games from him. It does happen. All teams screw up. But when it comes down to it, he's a guy that you're watching him. We've heard about him changing plays at the line of scrimmage, doing the right thing in the RPOs of giving the ball to Derrick Henry, calling a play at the line of scrimmage and realizing something, seeing the Mike linebacker. He's doing all these things, which I don't know that he was doing before. I can't speak to it because we really felt like his hands were tied a little bit and what he could do in the offense. So for people, you look at the numbers, he's got as many perfect passer ratings as Big Ben, who has the most in the history of the league, and his career's not over with yet. Yeah. He's got, he's on pace to get his third MVP this year if he keeps playing the way he's playing. Maybe it goes to Josh Allen, but he's definitely in the conversation. And he's doing that before year 7. These things are ridiculous, but it is kind of odd, just going back to what you said. The Steelers have played him well. I think we find out this weekend whether or not that has more to do. If they're going to keep him in the pocket and make him a thrower, which everybody decides to do, and I get it, but he's better now. He can definitely sling that football over the field.
What about the receivers? Because I mentioned Flowers, but you get past Flowers. I know Bateman has had a couple big games here and there, but you get beyond those two, and we're talking Aguilar and Deontay Johnson, and I'm not mentioning the tight ends, who are both very good.
Yeah.
But, there's not – I get the feeling that if they're going to try and attack things on the outside, attack those corners, who Joey Porter Jr. and Dante Jackson, I think, have actually both had pretty good seasons to this point. But if that's going to be your target, as Todd Monken, well, are you necessarily going to be able to beat those corners with those receivers?
Well, yeah, I think you can. So by the way, the 3 receivers they have are in the top 6-7 players in separation. That includes Deontay Johnson. Those are his numbers in Carolina. I'm wondering how much you see him here. Lamar made a comment saying, yeah, he's starting to build a rapport with Deontay Johnson. But he said, look at our offense. If it ain't broke, you don't need to fix it.
Right.
He adds tremendous depth. That may not be what he wants to hear, but it is that case. So, by the way, I truly believe this. If Rashad Bateman had went to a pass-happy offense, or if he had went to a quarterback that's more of a timing quarterback and throwing the football downfield, I think people would realize how good he is. He does drop some passes. It's frustrating, but the skill set's there. He's got speed, and he creates separation. My problem is I don't think Lamar waits on him long enough to get the ball downfield. If you go back to the AFC Championship game on the strip sack, they had Lamar mic'd up, and he kept yelling that was 6 because Rashad Bateman was wide open down the sideline against the Chiefs. I do think he's a lot better than what people think. But when you add in Likely and Andrews, and Aguilar's been great here. Like, for what you expect of him and what we heard about him in Philly and everywhere else, it's like, why are you picking up somebody else's trash?
Right.
He's done nothing but make plays here. And I'm not sitting here telling you he's going to have 70 catches. But if he gets one catch for 28 yards or catches a touchdown in a game, there's a big difference. And the other thing I think you have to realize with this team is you're going to see a lot of 12 personnel. They like to put 2 tight ends on the field, and have the one back with Derrick Henry back there. I do think they're a little bit more dangerous if they decided to go 5 wide and treat their team like you would, like Josh Allen does, where Josh Allen's essentially the running back there. Lamar could be the back. There's so many different things they can do, and we're starting to see different plays mixed in as well. And as they get healthier, Keaton Mitchell's a guy that has a ton of speed. Maybe he takes some of the gadget plays Zay's doing so we can get Zay downfield more. But I do think this offense is really legitimate. It's just the defense sucks.
So that's perfect transition. The defense sucks. Van Noy and Hamilton, probably the two of the 3 or 4 best players on that side of the ball, both questionable for this week. I imagine they both find a way to go, but we'll see. I look at the names, and I see Marlon Humphrey. I see Marcus Williams. I see Hamilton, Van Noy, Roquan, Matabike. Why does this defense suck, Jeremy?
I don't know. You know what I think, honestly? I'm not sure the defense was all that great to begin with. And they were a They won the Triple Crown last year. I think Mike Macdonald is an absolute genius. I don't know that can be imitated here, and we're seeing it. I don't think Zach Orr is a bad coach. I just think Mike Macdonald got the most out of his players and had them in position to make plays. Geno Stone has more missed tackles than almost every safety in the league for Cincinnati. And when he was here, all he was doing was picking off passes week after week. So I think sometimes it's the situation you're in. But it is weird to see all these players like Brandon Stevens. Is that our number one corner? This year, he can't turn around and find the ball. If he's not getting a pass interference, he's getting beat for a touchdown. Kyle Hamilton, we had some questions early on. I think this guy is such a difference maker. He's big, long, lean, fast, and plays all over the field. So, if he doesn't go, that scares me. And then, as you mentioned, Kyle Van Noy's been the one pass rusher that I think's really doing well. When you look at the Ravens numbers, their sack numbers might be okay. But again, to me, it's like, I'll give you the baseball analogy. It's a pitcher that strikes out 10 but gives up 5 runs.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. You guys got to the quarterback, but then you gave up a 3rd and 18. You gave up a huge pass play. So I don't know why the defense is so bad, or has it been so bad. Their coaches will come on and say, hey, they're just finding all the spots where, we're missing coverages. Well, stop missing coverages. And if they're finding it, then it means you're not getting to the quarterback quick enough.
Yeah. Why are coverages getting blown in the first place? I think, like you said, that might come back to a coaching issue. So as you look at the Steelers from a Baltimore perspective, I mean, this is an offense. Again, I said it. Nobody was especially excited about Arthur Smith or Russell Wilson, but they've come in and Mike Tomlin has pushed the right buttons again. So what do you is there a spot on the Steelers offense that as a Ravens fan, you go, oh, that's where they're going to get us. That's where they're going to expose and exploit our defense.
So, I brought it up on the morning show today. I think Pat Freiermuth, especially if Hamilton doesn't play. Now, it's not like Hamilton's going to be on him the whole game because they use him all over the place. But he's a guy I could see picking apart this defense and the slow bleed that it is of just converting 3rd downs over and over again. It's been a big problem for him just getting off the field on 3rd down. The guy I love watching is Pickens. He might be a head case. I don't know. But, man, he is so good at finding that ball. The catch radius is off the charts. That catch he had that last week was just, chef's kiss. I'm not a Steelers hater here in Baltimore like most people are. There are certain aspects of teams that I like, and I'm a big wide receiver guy. So watching him play, I could watch that guy every Sunday. So he's the one I would point at. And I mentioned to you earlier, I don't think Najee Harris is the best running back in the league. I'm not even sure. I don't know if he's in the top 10, top 15, but boy, do I love watching him run. He runs angry every single time. I think those are the worrisome parts when you think about the Ravens, because what do? They give up big pass plays. And it's interesting too, because we all know this. When you're facing a team, you want to make them one-dimensional. The Ravens they're the best team in the league at stopping the run. Nobody runs on them. Like you want to. If your guy gets 60 yards, hats off, but he got 60 yards. What did he do? And it's so terrible because they keep making every team one-dimensional, and the one dimension is the passing game, in which they suck at stopping. So I think their numbers are a little elevated, that they're not as bad as they've shown.
Right.
But I feel like they're as bad as they've shown because I've been watching this team, and it's been frustrating watching them give up big pass play, especially even having double-digit leads. This team under John Harbaugh has blown more double-digit leads in the past 5 years than any other coach. It's ridiculous.
The similarities between these two teams, not just, over the years, but especially in some of the numbers this season, are kind of startling. Steelers are 7-2, Ravens are 7-3. They've both got point differentials in the mid to upper 60s. They both are on multi-game winning streaks now. Ravens is only 2 games, but still 2 is a streak. So what do you think? You mentioned earlier, Ravens fans, people in Baltimore don't necessarily feel much fear about the Steelers in this game this weekend. What changes about that if things don't go well this weekend? Because then you're talking about the Steelers are 8-2, which nobody, including even the biggest Steeler fans, expected that. And the Ravens would fall a full game and a half back, plus the Steelers would, at least for the time being, have the tiebreaker on them. What would that do to the Ravens, and what would it do to fans down in Baltimore to be like, oh my God, we're chasing Russell Wilson?
Yeah, look, I think they'd be frustrated. And I tell you this, look at how their season's gone. They start off 0-2. They lose week 1, basically because Isaiah Likely is wearing those Kevin Durant shoes. His toes just on the line. the Air Ronald McDonald's, as I called him, with those big ass feet. No, but like his toes out of bounds. Then week 2, you come back and it's like, we got the Raiders at home. They're beating their ass. And they're up 10 points in the fourth quarter. There's no way the Raiders came back and won. What happened? Yeah. And then so you're 0-2, and now you're going to Dallas, who's 0-2, and you're going, they're not going to lose 2 games at home. And then you spank them, and it's like, okay, we're back. And then they spanked the Bills. I think it was just a perfect scenario with the Bills and road games, who they played and how it went. But I do think the Ravens are a horrible matchup for them. So this season, and just you can kind of figure it out how it started off, the 5-game win streak or the 4-game win streak. And then the hiccup against the Browns where you're going, you guys, Jameis tried to throw the football to you 4 times in the game. And it was like your wide receivers had hands like feet, or your cornerbacks. They couldn't catch anything. It's like, I'm not going to catch that and you can't make me. So it's been, are we the best team in the league? Can anybody beat them? Are we the worst team? Are we going to make the playoffs? Oh my God, we're the best team again. And it's been that roller coaster ride. And I don't think as a Ravens fan, you can feel comfortable facing any team because you lost to the Browns and the Raiders. And one was at home, one was on the road. But also when they face good teams, they've been beating their ass time after time if they're not named the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's going to be, I can't wait. I mean, and I mentioned it on your show this morning, but people in Pittsburgh are excited for this. I didn't realize that it was gaining the kind of momentum throughout the week that it was until someone told me they sold a quartet of tickets for like $3,000. And I was like, whoa. Wow. I was like, this. So it's very much got a playoff feel in mid-November to it. We know the Steelers-Ravens rivalry is always great, but this one has a little more oomph now that the Steelers are actually competitive.
Let me ask you this, because we were talking about this. Do you think the Steelers-Ravens rivalry is so good because it started off with them being the Browns and coming to Baltimore where you already hated them, and then it picked up because of, obviously, we see how these we talk about it all the time. It's going to be 3 points one way or the other. 90% of the time, I think it finishes at that. Somebody wins by a field goal. So did you find that, or do you feel like you still hate the Browns the same? Because it's a little different for us because it's a new team in 96.
Yeah, so I think anyway, and this is the perspective of a Steelers fan who wasn't alive for the Steelers of the 70s and grew up watching them suck a little bit during the 80s, and it gave me reason to hate the Browns and the Bengals and the Oilers and everybody else in that division that would kick the Steelers' teeth in from time to time at the end of the Knoll era. When the Cowher era began, there was a good little rivalry there for a couple of years with the Steelers and Browns. Testaverde and O'Donnell, and the Steelers beat them in the playoffs one year at Three Rivers Stadium. But I don't think there was actually, believe it or not, in Pittsburgh for a time, a real sense of sympathy for Browns fans and people in Cleveland because they had their football team taken from them. And even though they were the Browns and we hated the Browns and we hate Cleveland, we felt bad for a time. And the Browns, other than that one wild card win in the COVID year, have never done anything to really strike any kind of fear into the Steelers or their fans. And even though it's been mocked a lot since then because of that wild card game in front of no one, Juju Smith-Schuster said something that year. I think he said the Browns is the Browns. And it's still like you can find T-shirts of that down in the Strip District. The Browns is the Browns, and they are Browning again. And so they're almost like the little brother that you kind of feel bad for, and nobody else is allowed to kick their ass but you because it's your little brother. But the Ravens are the brother that's your age and will bloody your lip just as often as you will hit back against them. And there's a mutual respect for, I think, the Ravens and what they've accomplished. And I think it was born out of, as soon as they went to Baltimore, they were competitive, right? And they were in a Super Bowl within 5 years. And, a guy like Rod Woodson goes there almost immediately in the aftermath of his Steelers career. And he becomes a big piece. And there were so many great games, like you said, early on in the rivalry that I think it's more of a mutual respect. The Bengals, I think a lot of Steeler fans just hate. Because they're very Cubs fanish in that they're very Johnny come lately. Oh, congratulations, you're good now after 2.5 decades of sucking. The Browns we feel bad for to a certain extent, even though we still like to see the Steelers kick their ass, and we would like to watch them fall on their face. The Ravens we have a begrudging respect for.
Yeah, I get that because there should be the respect factor. And I was going to say to you, I don't know if you feel the same way I do. I don't necessarily worry about coming in and facing the Steelers. I look forward to that game because it's fun. It does scare me of who you play afterwards because it's going to be a car accident on Sunday. Like they hate each other.
And in the Steelers' case, it's a huge letdown spot. You play the Ravens at home, and 4 days later, you got to be up in Cleveland in a game where maybe you think you could sleepwalk through it against Jameis. And it's happened enough times where the Steelers during the Tomlin era have gotten beaten up physically by the Ravens and then had to go on a short week or had to go to Cleveland or some other place, and they lose that following game that they shouldn't lose. So,
and you know as well as I do, road Thursday night games are the biggest disadvantage in sports, man. Like you get, and it was funny because I was talking about it this past week with the games and how they were setting up. It's like, especially with the trade deadline, look at some of the teams that traded away pieces, and then all of a sudden now you're playing on Thursday night and you've got 1 day to get somebody caught up in what they're going to do. Like I even mentioned the Panthers who had to go to Germany. I was like, what are they going to look like? Because they traded their top 2 receivers. They already stink. And now they got to face the team that gets the most sacks in football. And then the Giant did.
Yeah.
I don't know if I said that right.
That's a word.
Because you can Browns, but you can't Giant it.
You can Browns it. You can Gianted it. It's a Daniel Jonesings in it. We're just making up verbs now, and that's all good.
They were calling him Danny Euros over there, which I liked. Danny Euros. God, does he suck too?
Does the exchange rate get them out of the contract on any better basis? Jeremy, thanks so much for going on the clock with me here on Draft Nation. It's been fun previewing this game with you. And I think as the week has built up towards Sunday, it's become more and more a realization for fans on both sides that this is going to be a hell of a game. So thanks again for taking the time. Absolutely, man. Well, who do you think's winning? You're going to put me to it. I think it's going to be unusually high scoring. Steelers 27, Ravens 24. Walk-off field goal from Chris Boswell. I said Ravens 27-20. I don't feel great about it by any stretch or anything like that. Like in picking games, and you know this is what I do. Like I love handicapping games. Like I'm scratching this one off. It's just go enjoy it. Because like with Ravens games this year, you can't figure out totals because they run the football so much they eat up the clock. It just matters if they're scoring touchdowns or if they're getting field goals. Right. And if Tucker's actually making them, which is an interesting dynamic to this thing too, that could play out. Not that Heinz Field has ever been difficult to make field goals in. Jeremy, thanks again, man, so much. I appreciate the time. Thanks for going on the clock here on Draft Nation. Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks.